petitioner. We will acknowledge any written comments received by the board. We will allow an appearing party to express their support or objections. The board will discuss the appeal and formulate a resolution to approve the appeal. 5 affirmative votes of the board will be required for an appeal to be granted. Finally, any qualified party who is aggrieved by a decision of the board can appeal that decision to the Washtenaw County Circuit Court on a timely basis. Roll call, I am here. Mike Daniel.
Here.
Dave DeVarty.
Here.
Mike Topmeyer.
Here.
Nicole Eisenman. Todd Grant. Julie Weatherby.
Here.
Elizabeth Nelson.
Here.
Charlotte Wilson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion from Julie, support?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to approval of the minutes. We have minutes from the April 24th, 2019 meeting. Any comments or corrections to those minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Motion from Mike, support?
Support.
From Dave, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to petition ZBA 19-007-707 South Division. John?
I'm John Barrett, zoning coordinator for the city of Ann Arbor. Mustafa Ali is the property owner, is requesting an alteration to a non-conforming structure in order to construct an 18-square-foot addition to an existing non-conforming duplex. The addition is at the basement level grade and will allow for a second bedroom and an expanded first floor front porch. The addition will meet the R4C district setbacks, but an alteration is required as the property does not meet the lot size and lot width requirements. The subject property is located between Packard Road and on the eastern side of South Division. The home was built in 1935 and is approximately 2,112 square feet in size. Currently, the home has a 1-bedroom apartment in the basement and a 5-bedroom apartment on the first and second floors. The alteration will allow for this new 103 square foot second bedroom in the basement with an egress window to the front patio. The occupancy in the basement unit will not increase as it will remain at 2. You'll turn your attention to the monitors. You'll see the first slide is the location map. You see the subject property highlighted in yellow in the middle of the screen, and it's on the eastern side of Division Street, just west of Packard. The next slide is the aerial photo showing existing conditions in surrounding neighborhoods. The next slide is the zoomed-in aerial photo of the subject property. The next slide is the survey that was submitted with the application. And the next slide is the average front setback, which was a study that was created by the applicant. And the subject property is right here, and the new addition will not encroach any further into the required front setback. These are the floor plans that were submitted with the application. This is the first floor plan, first floor of the unit. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 and 2 bedroom here. And then the second floor shows bedrooms 3 and 4 and 5. This is the existing conditions of the basement unit. You see it's a 1-bedroom right now. And on the next slide, you'll see this is where they're proposing to do the addition. Existing right now is the the basement room right here. This will be an expansion, and it will allow for the proposed bedroom to be legal for rental housing, and it'll have an egress window right here out to the front porch area. These are the elevations that were submitted with the application. This is the front, the west elevation, and then the side of the proposed porch, and the bedroom will be down in the grade in the basement. These are the photos that I took in the inspection. As you can see, the window will be right here, and this porch will be extended, and the bedroom will be down below. And that's just another angle of the proposed area of construction, looking directly into the unit. This is looking to the south at the adjacent properties. You can see the next property, it's more forward than the subject property. This is looking to the north at the other adjacent side of the subject property. And this is just another angle of the adjacent property to the south. And that is the end of my presentation. I'll take any questions at this time.
Thanks, John. Questions for staff? Dave?
I've got a question. How, if they're adding a bedroom, how can the occupancy limit not increase?
Because I believe he has 2 people in 1 bedroom right now, and then he's going to create another bedroom for each tenant will have their own bedroom. I think the bedroom's large enough to accommodate 2 people. But the applicant can
But once you
explain it.
have a bedroom, you could put 2 people in each bedroom.
Not this one, it's only it's only going to be 103 square feet, which will only allow for 1 tenant in each bedroom.
But then you could have, if you could have 2 in the existing bedroom, you could still have 2 in the existing bedroom.
Well, I'll let
I
the-
just don't
I'll-
understand how
yeah.
you add space and not increase occupancy limit.
That's what was with the application. I'll let the applicant comment further on that.
Okay.
My
I-
name is
Hold
Mustafa
on. Hold on.
Ali.
Hold on
Hold
one
on.
second,
I'm
sir.
sorry.
Any other questions for staff, Mike? No? Okay. No, yes. If you could please state your name for the record. sign
Mustafa
in,
Ali,
and
I'm the owner and the manager of the property.
Yes.
Since I purchased that property, the lower unit was zoned for 2 people. It's on the certificate of occupancy, and it was always occupied by 2 people through the house history. So we're trying to do the second bedroom, adding, asking for permission to add a new bedroom to the basement unit for this apartment. This is a 2-unit non-conforming house, just like Mr. Barrett said, about 80% of the space needed for this new bedroom is already there in the apartment, currently used as a storage. We needed to add 18 square foot to this space to qualify for the new bedroom. This lower unit is already zoned and approved for 2 people. It was always occupied by 2 people in this house history, so there is no change in the occupancy level. The new added 18 square foot, 3 foot will be like towards the front of the house, and 6 foot will be to the south side of the house. And the new added 18 square foot will be covered up with the new extension of the existing porch. It will be covered up with a porch. And the front porch will be renovated, and the new awning will be added to the house. You notice there is no awning now on the house. A new awning will be added to the house front to provide weather protection, to enjoy outdoors. The small addition will add a great improvement and light to this basement unit, and more improvement to the house front, and more convenience to the people living in this house. The size and the scale of the new front porch will be more in line to the neighboring properties' front porches. So we're staying within the front porch limits, and it will be in line with the whatever is existing.
Thank you. Any questions for the petitioner? Dave?
So the back parking area, how many cars do you allow to park back there? Because it seems
It's
like
about,
it's difficult to maneuver
well,
more than
It's
2, maybe 3 at the most.
I think it's like 4 or 5.
And it,
And there's
not
also
without,
the
but
driveway.
people have to move the cars in order to get each other out. They block each other in.
There is a long driveway, and there is
Right.
access to the, like, the front, it's open to the property next door, so they use our driveway sometimes when.
Oh, so you do you go through the backyard of the
Correct.
neighbor and use their driveway for
Correct.
cars?
They use our driveway
Gotcha.
when they need, and we use their driveway when we need, so it's kind
Okay,
of like.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That, I could see that.
They're required to have 3 parking spaces, 1.5 per unit. So,
Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone here from the public to speak on this? I will note we did not receive any written correspondence, so we are in discussion.
So this is a funny one for me because I actually, some dear friends of mine lived in this apartment many years ago. You will laugh because he's like 6'8", and it was a small apartment for two people. I think this is a great addition. One thing I'm really excited is that you are going to renovate the porch because it does stand out.
Yeah, I am excited too.
I think it's a great place to live. He's now a full professor at Ohio State, so it's a good spot for people to live while they're going to school here. And I think you're asking for a very small variance.
Okay.
And I think even if you're just one, sorry, not a
Alteration.
variance, right, yeah. And even if it's just, extra space for one person, I think it's helpful to have an office so I think this is great. I think it's actually going to bring the house back to look a little more like it did in the past. So.
Dave?
I was there looking at it this afternoon, and I agree with Julie. I think it'll be an improvement. Our standards for alterations to non-conforming structures are not as tough, and in order to meet the standards for a full-blown variance, I think we would be hard-pressed, but in your case, it's an easy one for me to approve, and I think it'll be an improvement for that apartment.
Any further discussion or motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Dave.
Petition ZBA 19-007, 707 South Division. Based on the following findings of fact and in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants permission from Section 532.2 to alter a non-conforming structure per submitted plans. A, the alteration complies as nearly as practicable with the requirements of the zoning chapter and will not have a detrimental effect on neighboring property.
For support? Support from Dave? Dave?
Yes.
Mike Galbraith?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Charlotte?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mike Daniel?
Yes.
The request is approved. Moving on to petition ZBA 19-009, 2829 Catalpa Circle. John?
All right, next case, ZBA 19-009. Masood Ahmad Merabi, property owner, is requesting a variance from Table 5:17-1, single-family residential zoning district dimensions. A 10-foot 4-inch variance from the required 30-foot rear yard setback is requested in order to construct a 218-square-foot addition and sunroom to the existing residence. The property is zoned R1C single-family residential. The subject property is located on a cul-de-sac lot west of Stone School Road and Clinton Park. The home was built in 1969 and is approximately 1,416 square feet in size. The owners are proposing to construct an addition to the existing sunroom and a one-story living room addition at the northwest corner of the property. If you turn your attention to the slide, to the monitor, the first slide, the subject property is highlighted right here in the middle of the screen. See, it's on this Catalpa Circle, the cul-de-sac lot. The next slide is an aerial photo of the subject property and the surrounding neighborhoods and existing conditions. The next slide is the zoomed-in aerial photo and the proposed construction is to take place in this northwest corner, and the variance will be from this rear setback back here. It's a little light right here, the survey. You can see it in your packets better. This is the survey of the existing conditions that was submitted with the application. This is the proposed footprint of the application. So from this corner is asking for the 10-foot 4-inch variance to be 19 feet 8 inches from the rear setback. This section, from this edge of the living room addition it'll be 6 feet from the side property line, and the required setback is 5, so it does meet the side setback of 5 feet required by 1 foot. These are the elevations that were submitted with the application. This will be the expansion of the existing sunroom, which is right here. It'll come off over in this direction, and then this will all be the additional one-story living room. These are the conceptual photos that were submitted with the application. You see the existing conditions in the back right here, and this will be the living room and the expanded sunroom. And you'll see from the existing front, from looking from the street, and you see how the new addition relates to the front elevation. These are the photos that I took in my inspection. You see the survey markers are in place at the front of the property. This is looking down the side yard, and you see the adjacent properties, the abutting properties in the rear, and this is the area where the new construction is proposed to take place. This is the area where the living room will be. This is looking at the abutting properties. This is looking directly at the existing sunroom, and the new proposed sunroom will come out from that and the living room from this area. Looking at the rest of the backyard and the existing deck. Just another angle of the existing sunroom as it relates to the adjacent property to the north. This is looking at the area where the proposed construction is back out onto Catalpa Circle. This is the property adjacent to the property, the subject property. And that is the end of my presentation, and I will take any questions at this time.
Thank you, John. Questions for staff? Elizabeth?
Can you flip back to the shot facing west, I think? The neighbor behind? Yeah, okay. So where are you standing when you took that photo?
Right where the proposed living room and sunroom is going to be.
Okay. And so the distance between where you're standing and that fence is,
Approximately 19 feet, 8 inches.
got, exactly. Okay,
Because
thank
the
you.
10-foot,
Yeah.
4-inch variance is the request.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions for staff? Mike?
So, John, just to confirm, the existing structure meets the setback in the back? What is the house?
No, the existing sunroom does not.
It does not, okay.
So if you look at your packet, because it's so light on the monitor, you see on page, sorry. You see the first survey after the application?
Yes.
You see where it says 22 feet, 4 inches?
Yes,
That's the closest portion right now.
okay. That's supposed to be at 30?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, if you could please state your name for the record and sign in, you'll have 5 minutes.
Thank you for letting me to present my idea about the project. My name is Masud Ahmad Rabi, property owner. Let's start with our needs. That house built in 1959, and it is the smallest house in the neighborhood. Has 3 bedrooms, a small place for living, and dark inside. So we had to do something. I started doing something inside, changing the doors and the chimney from the old design, because that time there was not the efficiency furnaces, that I removed that one to make the spaces bigger. It was my idea first to go backward. When I came to City Hall, we found out we cannot. So we proposed that to go side. When we go to the side, the house goes this way and the property line not parallel. So it is a triangular shape. it is better to extend the sunroom too, to look, the house look good. So I put everything as an extended sunroom and the addition to the house. We don't have to really have that extended sunroom if it doesn't comply with the regulations, everything. But adding the addition to the house, bring the light. Make it proportional, because we have a living space, 3-bedroom, 3 people living in that house, like 2, 3 kids, no space to sit and no light. So we're putting together, I come up with this idea to see if we can put the addition and affordable and be able to live inside and talk about the outside to not bothering other people. I talked to the neighbors. The only concern that I heard from the neighbor that if we see their yard, that I talked to them that even we don't do the addition, still with just the window, we can see the yard. We can work on it to make the glasses different or make the windows less or more. This is not something that it is the regulation that doesn't allow us, based on my understanding, but I talked to them, even if the concern about seeing the other house's yard, we can work on it, make the changes to the windows. Other than that, I didn't see anything, objections from the neighbors. The neighbor in the back, we have 3 houses in between us, and if we upgrade the house, it's going to be proportional to the other houses of the neighborhood. Because of the specific shape of the land, they put 1,400, but the average square foot for the houses, that area is 2,000. If you have any question, I can explain it more.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the petitioner? Elizabeth?
I understand that you rent this house out, is that right?
It is not a real rental house. I just gave it to some friends. They pay, but it is like a half a percentage. We are waiting for my kids to come back. They are graduating from medical school, 2 of them, and they're going to come back because this is a memory house for them. They want to raise their children, the houses where they live all the time. It's the reason why all started to do renovation in the house, because we are going to use it for ourselves.
Oh, okay. Well, who's living in the house now?
Right
I'm
now,
allowed
there
to
are
ask
some
this.
university kids from our community, and they pay me. It's a rental house, but like have a pricing, just temporarily for my children to come back next year that are going to graduate.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm wondering what other additions you may have considered in lieu of this one. It seems like there are some areas, just looking at I guess the site plan, that would be compliant, that could be built into, and I'm wondering if you considered anything else other than this living
That's the
room.
thing. I couldn't find anything else. This is the only thing that I came up with, and this is. Again, if we don't want to do the sunroom, that's fine. This is a triangular shape, like a few feet, 2-3 feet in the corner. If we wanted to change that one, the house is going to be looking very weird because we go to the house and the addition with the angle, we have to go to the living room and then turn. But with this one, it is just one space.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone here from the public, excuse me, to speak on this petition? I will note we did receive some letters from 2827 Catalpa Circle, first noting no objections, but then also noting that other neighbors may be more impacted than she is, and asking us to consider their concerns. There is a letter from 2831 Catalpa Circle, not in support for the addition, as well as a letter from 3307 Tacoma Circle with concerns regarding the addition. And with that, we're in discussion. Dave?
I cannot support this. When I looked at the houses on that circle, the 3 other houses on the circle all have their garages forward. Yours is set significantly back. There's a significant part within the buildable area that doesn't infringe on any setbacks that is buildable. If you moved your garage up, you could have buildable space where the garage sits now, plus additional space behind it and to the side. Plus you raised light as an issue for you. You're proposing something on the north side where there's less light. Of course, if you're an artist, you might prefer that. But working where the garage is now, you're going to have a southwest exposure, which is going to be much better light if you're looking for natural light. But this is for your architect. And I'm actually kind of disappointed in your architect because I think there were significant solutions that would not require a variance that would be easy to implement. So I cannot support granting a variance in this case.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm with Dave. I'm struggling to find a hardship. I think that there's a possible solution on the side of the house even that you've chose to build. I know that there's a solution in front of the garage and to the other side of the house. And based on the criteria that we have to judge this against, it's really difficult for me to find a reason to support it, so I'll be voting no.
Sorry, sir, we're in discussion.
So it was my assumption first to go backward.
Can you step to the microphone, please?
So I was thinking to go backward first. I found out I cannot. If we wanted to go to the garage side, it is totally different house. We have to change everything from the inside to the outside because the kitchen is inside, close to garage, and all of the living room, everything the other side. How can we add the living room, remove the garage? I cannot even imagine it. So if there is any solution, it is going to be that side, but with the kind of adjustment to comply with the zoning regulations. Other than that, if there is any solution, let me know. I don't mind to listen and do it, but I was looking at the other side of the garage and in the back. I myself couldn't find anything, and that architect also didn't tell me anything that he think that possibility.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any further discussion?
I mean, I'll speak to that. It's not our jobs to come up with solutions for it. It's our job to comment on what's proposed in front of us. I'm having a really tough time seeing the case to add such a large addition to the house. And in the area that it is, I think you could probably go smaller and stay within the setbacks and still bring in some natural light and achieve some of the things that you're looking for. I would encourage you to work with your architect to find a solution on that.
Ready for a motion? Dave?
All right, this is petition ZBA 19-009-2829 Catalpa Circle. Based on the following findings of fact and in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants the following variance from Chapter 55, Unified Development Code, Table 5:17-1, Single-Family Residential Zoning District Dimensions, a variance of 10 feet 4 inches from the 30-foot required rear setback to allow construction of a 218-square-foot addition and sunroom to the existing residence. The construction is to be built per the submitted plans. A, the alleged practical difficulties are peculiar to the property and result from conditions which do not exist generally throughout the city. B, that the practical difficulties which will result from a failure to grant the variance include substantially more than mere inconvenience, inability to attain a higher financial return, or both. C, the variance, if granted, will not significantly affect surrounding properties. D, the circumstances of the variance request are not self-imposed. E, the variance request is the minimum necessary to achieve reasonable use of the land or structure.
Do I have support?
Support.
Elizabeth?
No.
Charlotte?
No.
I vote no. Mike Daniel?
No.
Dave?
No.
Mike Dobmeyer?
No.
Julie?
No.
The request is denied. Moving on to petition ZBA 19-010-2167 Medford Road. John?
5 Star Signs representing Ann Arbor Woods is seeking a variance from section 5.33.2 subsection B, non-conforming signs. A new sign package is being proposed to change the color, fonts, and logos of the existing non-conforming monument signs, which there are 3, 2 leasing center signs and 11 directional signs or address signs. The subject property is a 262-unit complex located south of East Stadium Boulevard and east of St. Francis Drive. The complex was developed in 1963 and is zoned R4B, multiple family dwelling district. Section 5.33.2, subsection B states no nonconforming sign shall be changed to another nonconforming sign, and 2, shall have any change made in the structure, shape, size, type, design, or mechanical or electrical equipment of the sign unless the change brings the sign into compliance with this chapter. Multifamily developments are allowed a maximum of 2 monument signs, and the code does not address leasing center signs or directional or ancillary signs. If you'll turn your attention to the monitor, the first slide is the location map. You'll see the yellow highlighted parcel of the development, Ann Arbor Woods, just south of Stadium Boulevard. It's directly behind Trader Joe's. You see the aerial photo of the property, which actually extends across, and it makes up these parcels right here. Zoomed in aerial photo of the development. And this is the survey that was submitted with the application, and I actually handed out some of the surveys. It's a little better for you to see. And I've highlighted the locations of all 16 signs that are on site. The next slide is the design package that was submitted with the application. These are the existing signs. There are 3 of these monument-style signs, 2 of these leasing center signs, 4 and 5. These are all in your packet. And then there's multiple address signs. Several of them are 16 square feet in size that give the address, a logo, and the name Medford. And this was the applicant's submittal to change the rendering of what the finished product will look like. This is a community map that was submitted with the application, a little bit better map color rendering showing the existing property, and you also had the survey. These are the photos that I took when I was out at the property. You can see one of the existing monument signs. These are some of the address signs, the directional ancillary type signs. Leasing center sign, or leasing office sign, excuse me. Another address sign, another monument sign, and the other 3rd monument sign. That is my presentation. I'll take any questions at this time.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Questions for staff? Mike?
So, John, to confirm that you're not asking to add additional signs or increase the size of the existing signs?
That's correct. They want to change the fonts and the logos and the color scheme from the existing right there, which is kind of a brown, more type design, and then to more of a silver and gray.
Got it, thanks.
You're welcome.
Dave?
So if these were new sign installations, would all of this be permitted or not?
It would not.
How far over what would be permitted are we right now?
So the code allows residential developments like this, apartment complexes, one monument sign at each entrance, up to a maximum of 2. So they have 3 of those monument entrance signs. The code does not address leasing center signs, clubhouse type signs, it just doesn't even talk about them. And then the address signs, where the code gets a little vague, is that the intent is for this addresses to be on the buildings. And every property is allowed to have a 3 square foot ancillary sign, but as I mentioned, many of these are over 3 square feet, and this, like these styles are 16 square feet, they're 4 by 4. So that is why they're non-conforming, due to, they're not wall mounted, they're ground mounted, and then they're over the square footage allowance. If a sign package like this came across my desk today, I would not permit it. And that's why I consider these as non-conforming, and the intent of the code is for non-conforming signs to eventually go away, not to extend or prolong the life of the sign, which I feel in mind, this would do that.
Elizabeth?
Since there are so many signs, and some of them I'm reacting to differently than others, I'm curious if it ever happens at this table that we partially approve a variance, or if this is up or down.
Are you asking me, can you modify the variance request
Yeah.
possibly?
Do we ever do that?
Sometimes.
We do, it's not the preferred method, but if that is what the if that's what your motion is, then that's what we would go with. If you decide to, we'll grant a partial variance, we grant a variance or a motion to approve the modification of 3, say, monument signs, then they would get a 3 monument sign variance and would have to leave the other ones alone. That's entirely up to the board, though.
Okay, so I didn't mean to drag us into the weeds, that probably was a discussion kind of question, but, so, based on your visit and having seen them, what are they made out of? I can see the monument one is made out of stone, but like the other ones, are they like metal?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
I think maybe one of the leasing center signs may be post and panel, but the applicant can speak more to that.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, the petitioner, if you could please step forward, state your name for the record, and sign in, you'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Ron Sabrin. I'm the senior property manager of Ann Arbor Woods. John was actually hired to do our sign work, and he's running late. So Heyman Company purchased Ann Arbor Woods last summer, with the intent to basically reface and update the current signs. So that's really all we're asking for. The property was built in the early 60s, and it's quite unique. So where it sits on Medford, it's not exactly one entrance, one exit. It's on, a couple different streets. So also the way that the building addresses work, and there's 2 different styles of buildings, it becomes confusing when you're on Medford, whether it's on the right or the left. So those larger metal signs that you see that say like 2180 Medford, that's specifically speaking to that longer building, because that whole building is just one address. But if you cross the street, there are several buildings, and they're actually addressed by the door. So one door is 2143, the other door is 2147, so it becomes a little confusing. So when we realized that we weren't conforming to the, whatever the code is, we looked at everything. And some of the larger signs, they're not necessarily perfect, but they're necessary. So that's why we're coming to ask for the variance. It's important for us too to acknowledge that some of the back buildings are one way. So those signs that say entrance are specifically for that, one way exit or entrance. And I think you can see that on there as well. As far as the leasing signs are concerned, it's not like a normal multifamily project, so there's no standalone leasing office. So for us, we need to identify to a prospect coming in exactly where we are, and that's specifically for that sign. Also, where it sits, it's kind of nestled in that neighborhood behind Trader Joe's, but there's also a property called Arbor Hills right next to us, and they're similar vintage. So that monument sign, one of the first pictures that he showed, is actually deciphering between the two of that one. It deciphers between the two of us, because literally if you turn the angle of the camera, you're going to catch their buildings and their community on that side. So again, we are, investing in the property, and we are updating things, and we just want it to look better and reface the existing signs. We're not asking to change the number.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the petitioner? Elizabeth?
From these pictures, I can see that there's a lot of greenery around the buildings, and so I'm hearing John say that the preference is to have street addresses on the buildings. That's the preference of the sign ordinance?
That's what the code
Okay.
states, yes.
So I guess I'm wondering, I don't know if we can tell from these pictures how easily you could put any of these signs on directly on the building, if that was the preference?
They also are on the building.
Oh,
but
okay.
Because the way the property sits, like, you can't exactly see some of those apartment door entrances from the street. So you have to go into the parking lot and physically get out of your car and walk back. Like, right behind Trader Joe's are two entrances, and you'd never know that they were there if they didn't have the street sign that says 2143 to 2151. So if there was an ambulance or anything like that, I think they would struggle to find the building.
Thank you.
Any other questions with the petitioner? Mike?
Yeah, a couple questions. First, to the idea of putting these signs on the building, was there any discussion of adding more signage onto the buildings?
We looked at that, and there is actually, the only thing that isn't, that we, how do I say it? Because the way that the buildings sit, like this one, 2180, we would have to put probably, because there's two entrances and the building is so long, we'd probably have to put 6 or 8 signs on the building. So they decided to put this one right out in front of it.
Okay. And then my next question is the one-way kind of nature of the drives. Are there one-way, like, traffic signs as well, in addition to the entrance and exit signs?
No, it just says like 2180 entrance.
Okay. Is there painting on the road to indicate that it's one way? I don't necessarily know that I would know that an entrance sign would indicate to me as a driver that that was a one-way road.
The only thing that is like the parking is kind of tilted, so you can, and the road is very narrow, so you can obviously see that you're going the wrong way.
Got it. Okay, and then just the last question. So the monument signs, can you just point out where those are again? Are they on the 3 main roads that all lead into this, one on each of the roads?
Yeah, so that one that he just passed,
I believe there's 2 right here,
Oh, on either side of
and
the
then
road.
1 up here, I believe. Is that correct, sir?
yes, that's correct. So the one that is at the furthest end, there's only one, but that's really the identifier that you're actually at the property, and it creates a difference between the property next door. The other 2 at the end are the main entrance, but also because the buildings look so different and are so unique, it's not branded to look the same. So the 2 monument signs are actually necessary to identify that it is Ann Arbor Woods.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone here from the public to speak on this? I will note we did not receive any written communication on this petition, so we are in discussion. Dave?
I grew up in Ann Arbor and was around when the sign ordinance was developed. I also used to deliver pizzas in the early 1970s. And I have to say, I don't remember these signs, but I never had trouble finding, and that was before GPSs, finding any addresses at any apartments, and maybe that was because I was on the road a lot, 100 miles a night delivering pizzas, so I knew my way around, as probably ambulance drivers would as well. I would note that this Needham is mostly single-family homes. Manchester, just down the way, is mostly single-family homes. The other apartment complex which you refer to, which, if we turn the camera around, is architecturally different and I think distinct from yours. I don't know what the modern day kind of, everybody's worried about branding. And you've got 3 signs that are just monument signs to brand. And then you've got your Ann Arbor Woods on a number of the other signs, the leasing office signs. My problem is this so exceeds our zoning ordinance, which was largely, we wanted to pull these kinds of signs out of residential areas. And admittedly, this Medford is all multifamily. But Manchester and Needham are not. And there are other streets right around this area that are not. And I support the intent of the original ordinance to reduce the signage in these residential areas. So I have a lot of problem with this. I would feel much more comfortable if you had come in and with some sort of a compromise and said, look, we know you're trying to reduce signage. These are signs we're willing to give up. These are signs that we think are really important for the navigation for people coming to our leasing offices, et cetera. So I've grappled with this. I realize you're not asking for more signs, but I think what you have is too much. And I will oppose this. Others on the board will make their minds up how they do.
Mike?
I tend to agree. I think that there is need for some of these signs. The monument signs, I mean, it is fairly unique that you've got kind of 2 main entrances to this area. So that sits a little differently with me than the entrance signs. Putting addresses on buildings is fairly common at this point. I think that I feel like we could probably figure out a way to do that without having the signs that are there. So I think as it's currently proposed, I'm leaning towards no, unless I hear something that kind of sways me a different direction.
Julie?
So this is conflicting for me too. I'll do the old timers along with Dave here, and I lived in both Ann Arbor Woods and Ann Arbor Hills, or Arbor Hills. So, and my husband lived in 2180 Medford Road, which is the one, and he lived in the back. And that's not 20, like it's a weird, it's actually really hard to find those back ones because there's 2 sets sort of sandwiched together, and you don't go in the front door to get to the back. And so there actually is, and the road does go one way, and you try it once the wrong way, and then you don't do that again because it's narrow. And so I think there is a case for this, and there's a reason, because it is stretched along this road, and there's buildings on one side that do one thing and buildings on the other side that do a different thing. But times have changed, and we're looking at reducing our number of signs. So I'm a little, it's hard to know exactly how we should, I don't want to penalize this development for wanting to make some changes to their signs, but because I do think it is kind of an unusual setup, and I actually like the existing signs, and I like that when you're in there, you kind of know where you are and that you're in Ann Arbor Woods rather than the other one, because it matters when you live there. But I don't know where, to fall in on this. I think it would be helpful to maybe not have quite so many signs, but again, the leasing office is actually just one of the apartments. It's not it's not a separate building surrounded by a pool, or it's just one of the apartments. So having these signs actually makes some sense in this case, and I don't know that anybody's really ever been like, oh, wow, there's so many signs here, this is crazy. So I guess that's not helpful, because I'm not falling on one side or the other, but I do think there are some reasons to have these extra signs in this area.
I'll just kind of piggyback on that a little bit. I am kind of in the same place. I don't know which way I'm going. I agree that I think I drive through this area quite frequently, and I have never thought that there's over signage. And they do all, from your explanation and just from my general experience, seem necessary. But again, I'm cognizant of the fact that the city as a whole is trying to reduce signage, and by replacing all of these signs, it would definitely be extending the life of several non-conforming signs. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if the answer is replacing these with smaller signs, perhaps, like if that's the compromise, like the 2180 Medford sign with the large leaf on it, if maybe the logo is reduced down so that the sign itself could be smaller, maybe that's the trade-off. I don't know. But that's kind of where I am.
I would like to make this point. I think we thought it was a yes or no, and that wasn't exactly a compromise, and we're 100% open to it. So if there's a size that we need to conform to, especially for like the 2180 and the 2120 signs in the front of those large buildings, you know, we'd definitely like to consider it.
Mike?
So I think everyone's been making really reasonable points on both sides of this so far, which is not a surprise. For me, I did not deliver pizzas, and when I go into large apartment complexes, I have consistently a hard time finding the right building. It's hard if you've never been there before, when you have a bunch of different buildings with small addresses, and I'm sure it's a logical layout, but if you've never been there, you might not pick up on it right away. So I've had, in various apartment complexes, not just in Ann Arbor, but all over the country, have had this challenge. So I'm thinking about my own personal experiences of going into a place I haven't been and just trying to find my way. For me, the fact they're not asking for more, this is what's there, they just want to make what's there look better. This obviously was announced to everyone in the neighborhood who could have complained that, God, these signs are crazy, and these billboard address signs, it's just ugly. We didn't have a single opposition letter to this. So I like to make things easy for people to find, and these aren't commercial signs on Washtenaw. This is helping people find an address or a leasing office. So I'm on the for side of this, but I also understand where my fellow commissioners are coming from and are making very reasonable points. So that's just where I fall.
Dave?
I'd like to just respond to that directly, that it's great having more signs to make it easier to find your way through apartment complexes, but the city made a decision with its sign ordinance to reduce signage in residential areas. This is primarily, Medford is multifamily, so I'm less worried about that, but it's immediately adjacent to single-family residences, and there's a lot of pedestrian and bicycle traffic through this area. I don't want to, I support the original intent. There are plenty of apartment complexes that have come in and complied with our modern sign ordinances and don't have big signs on the street, albeit if we allowed them to do that, it would make some of my fellow commissioners happy because they could find their way, navigate easier. But I'm just not there that I'd like to encourage reduction, and I don't see that from you, and I'd say, I would have hoped when you came into the staff that they might have worked with you to reduce the amount of signage. They didn't do that. It puts me in a position where I have to oppose this, which I'm sorry about, and I totally understand the people that support this as well. It's already existing.
I'm looking at these signs and thinking about some of the comments that have already been made, and I'm feeling the pull of wishing that there was something in between or something less. And one of my curiosities is if the leasing office is just an apartment, I'm trying to understand if maybe the information about where the leasing office is could be on, like, tacked onto one of the monument signs or tacked somewhere else so that one wouldn't have to be there, or, you know, I'm trying to, the address ones I think I understand because people, the number 4 sign, I don't, that one looks like it's, like the letters are falling off, right? I mean, like, nobody's making much use of that sign already, except because you can't even read it, right?
It's not a very good photo. It actually looks much, much better than that. And
Oh.
that's actually the physical, yeah. That's actually the physical.
Oh,
you go.
there it is, okay.
Yeah.
There was, okay.
So when you're driving down Medford, when you're coming off of Manchester and you're driving down Medford, because the building just looks like a building, you wouldn't know that it was the leasing office without that sign.
Huh, okay.
So from a business perspective and a prospect not knowing exactly where they're going, and it doesn't look like the newer type of community, you know, it's kind of necessary.
So I have a question for John, I guess. The sign I'm looking at right now, that leasing office sign, how big is that sign?
That one right there,
That looks like,
oh, I think it's probably a 5 or a 6 by 3.
John,
It's
from the-
it's between 18 and 24 square feet, I would say.
It's 4 by 5.
4 by 5, 20
Oh,
square
okay.
feet.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion if there's no more discussion.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm gonna say the same thing I just said, but I think that there's a solution in between here. And I'm with you, Mike, too. I've been to apartment complexes that I've had a hell of a time trying to figure my way around. And some of those apartment complexes didn't do enough within what they could do by right. And I'm kind of feeling like there's a solution here that is in between that and this. So I'm gonna be voting no on that.
So with that said, I'm just going to throw this out there. Is it worth not voting on this petition and postponing it and allowing the petitioner to come back with a revised sign package?
Or I would just prefer if we could, it's up to you, but I would prefer to vote on the application as it's presented tonight. And if it doesn't go favorably, the applicant always has the chance to submit a new application with a substantial change. I think we should vote on what's before us tonight. And then they can always come back. There's no rule that says you can't come back.
My
If they
only
resubmit, do they have to pay
Right.
another fee?
Yes. Yes.
Well, how much
Because-
is that fee?
It's $600 for commercial development. We have staff costs, staff time, we have to advertise in the Washtenaw Legal News, and we have to send out notifications within 300 feet of every property. So there's mailing costs, there's a lot of expense that goes into each application.
Okay, thank you.
Dave?
If we were to, this is a question for John, to table this to our next meeting for possible amendment, would some of those costs not have to go out, like all the mailings and everything, we wouldn't have to
We
mail,
we
right?
have to re-notify
We would.
again. The newspaper, but not the mail. But as a staff,
Your
as staff,
time is- your time is valuable.
I can't prepare an application for the applicant. He's going to have to come up with that himself. I can only give the applicant what the code says, and it's up to them. So I'm not going to sit at a table and compromise or make a deal with the applicant. That's not my job, and that's not my role, and I don't have that levity.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion. Petition ZBA 19-010, 2167 Medford Road, variance. Based on the following findings of fact and in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants the following variance from Chapter 55, Unified Development Code, Section 5.33.2, Section B, non-conforming signs. A variance to allow a new sign package that changes the color, fonts, and logos of the existing non-conforming monument signs, 3, leasing center signs, 2, and directional signs, 11. A, the alleged practical difficulties are peculiar to the property and result from the conditions, or from conditions which do not exist generally throughout the city. B, that the practical difficulties which will result from a failure to grant the variance include substantially more than mere inconvenience, inability to attain a higher financial return, or both. C, the variance, if granted, will not significantly affect surrounding properties. D, the circumstances of the variance request are not self-imposed. E, the variance request is the minimum necessary to achieve reasonable use of the land or structure.
Support from Mike. Mike Daniel.
Yes.
Dave.
No.
Mike Dobmeyer.
No.
Julie.
Yes.
Elizabeth.
No.
Charlotte.
No.
I vote yes. The request is denied. Moving on. We have no unfinished business, new business, communications. John, did you have
I have
something to share?
one announcement I want to make. We have some sad news, but good news as well. I'd like to present the certificate of appreciation
thank you,
to
John.
Mike Dobmeyer. Tonight is his last night on the board. It was a pleasure getting to know you
Appreciate you.
professionally and personally. But congratulations on your new endeavors.
Oh, thank you.
And it's been a pleasure knowing you, and the board is at a loss tonight because we're losing your services. But thank you very much for your service.
All right, thanks, everyone.
All
And
right.
you might see me in the back of one of these public comments at some point, so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
Thank you.
anyone here from the public to speak? Seeing no one, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I have one comment.
Oh, Dave, yes.
I'd like to invite everybody at the table to help me celebrate my birthday. I'm turning 67, and just a couple blocks away at the home of a friend of mine, Amy Moore, who's got an apartment above Haymakers. We're going to have some pizza. My wife is bringing pizza from Bigalora. So, and we'll have cake.
All right, any other comments?
Is that on the record?
It can be on the
It's
record.
The
official.
whole city's invited.
People watching TV come over.
Do I have a motion to
More
adjourn?
power to them.
A motion from Mike, support from Julie, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We adjourned. Thanks, everybody.